Okay, so let's start. And let me do a little bit arrangement on my side to show the chat. And okay, so okay, so far we have spent 7 weeks together. So in the first 4 weeks, we mainly focus on sorting algorithms. So in which we learned, so that basically that is the first section or the first chapter that we're going to, that we talk about. So we learned 4 different sorting algorithms with different complexities and limitations, and then so in the past three weeks, we learned quite a few data structures. So could you so please recall how many data structures did we learn in total in the past 3 weeks? Okay, so what kind of data structures did we learn?
Linked list.
Insertion,
Yes?
sort, merge.
Oh, insertion sort? No, that's a.
Oh,
that's
so
a
sorry,
sorting.
sorry.
Yes.
There's linked list, stack and queues.
Binary search tree.
Yes, stack, queue, linked list. And so I heard binary search tree. Okay, let me call it BS tree. Okay, so so is there anything else?
RB tree?
Yes, last week we briefly talked about RB tree and another data structure.
Oh, we briefly talked about hash tables.
Yes, hash tables. Cool. Yes. So in the past 3 weeks, we learned this 6 data structures. So the first 3 data structures are pretty good at insertion and deletion. And they give us the O1 complexity in insertion and deletion, so which is pretty good. That's the best that we can hope for. And then the last three data structures mainly focus on search. So binary search tree gives us a OH complexity, where H is larger than or equal to log n, but it can be as large as n. So this is binary search tree. So the search complexity is OH. For RB tree, it's guaranteed to give us O log n search complexity. It's guaranteed that H is 2 times of log n plus 1. So binary search guarantees log n search complexity. And then we finally learn hash table, which is totally based on the hash function, and its complexity is the search complexity over hash table is just O1, because we basically so giving any value, we just need to compute the hash value of it, and so that we know the location where the location of that data if it is in the data stream. So this is the second part of our lecture, our course. And then starting from today, we're going to spend 2 structure named on algorithms, not data structures. So this is data structures, but starting from today, we're going to spend 3 weeks on topic the program. Okay, so this is, and so we're going to spend 3 weeks on that, and after that, we're going to spend another 4 weeks on a topic named graph. Okay, so that is the plan, and so this is the 4 part. This is the 4 different chapters that we plan to cover. And in my point of view, the dynamic programming, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So since there is some problem with MATLAB. Okay, so if you still hear me, that's good. So so in the next 3 weeks, we're going to talk about dynamic programming. In my point of view, this one is the most difficult because it involves a lot of math, and so from the programming side, it's not that difficult, but from the theoretical side, it's really difficult. In these 3 weeks, I hope that you can put more efforts to understand dynamic programming. In my undergraduate study, as I told you, I took this course, and for me at that time, dynamic programming is just a mystery for me. I don't understand it at all. So I don't want this happen to you, and so please, I'm going to explain these things to you, but again, because it is based on a lot of it is heavily based on mathematics. So some of you may get lost in my lectures, and if you get lost, no matter if you get lost or not, I require you to read a part of the after class. That is the first time that I require everybody to read a chapter. That is mandatory. Okay, so this is our plan. And
wait, before before you start, I just want to say, is it like calculus-based math or like algebra? Like,
it's not that advanced. I think it is mostly calculus. Yes.
okay, so derivatives.
No linear algebra. No linear algebra.
Okay.
So okay. So first of all, what is dynamic programming? Dynamic programming is basically a strategy to solve it, and it's pretty much like divide and conquer. So, but there is a big difference between divide and conquer. So let's first talk about divide and conquer. So where did we learn? In which chapter did we learn? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
I know it was in the sorting algorithm. I forgot if it was merge.
Merge
or...
sort.
Merge and
Quick sort.
What else? Quick, yes. In merge and quick sort, we applied dynamic programming, right? So let's go through the process for us to do merge sort. Okay, so given a very long array, we want to divide it into two small parts, two small subarrays, and then after that we will focus on each of them separately. So we further cut them until each of them only includes one element, and then we stop. Okay, so and then we're going to conquer each of them and then combine the solutions together. So this is what we do in merge sort. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing that we need to notice is that when we say in merge sort, when we cut a big array, so we got two subarrays. So is there any overlap between the two subarrays after cut? So do these two subarrays share an element? Mm-hmm.
You're kind of lagging for us. Like it's
Sorry?
lagging.
The audio
Oh.
is kind of choppy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me say if it's the network problem. No, I think if I connect to the correct network. So, how about now?
It's random. It's not constant.
Okay, so let me open up my door a little bit. So to save.
Does that actually work?
Okay. Oh, actually, my daughter, 2-year-old, is playing in the living room, so that's why I closed my door. I don't want her to interrupt us. Okay, so here in divide and conquer, after we divide a big array into 2 small subarrays.
I don't
No.
think so. No.
No, so this subarray and they do not share any element, if you remember. So we have P, Q, R, right? So the left starts, so right array starts, that's Q1 and ends at R. So in divide and conquer, we divide a big problem into problems. In divide and conquer, that is what we do in divide and conquer. We divide a big problem into non-overlapping sub problems. Whereas in dynamic programming, the story is totally different. So giving a very large input, we use the same logic. We say okay, the problem is too big, it's too complicated. So let's reduce the difficulty by looking at sub problems. But the thing is that when we do the divide, so we divide it in this way. So first, let's look at the first element, the first element. Then let's look at the first 2 elements. First 3 elements. So until the first -1 elements. Okay. So here you can say we divide a big problem into a series or sequence of sub problems, but these sub problems do overlap. So for example, the first 2 sub problems, for the first 2 sub problems, they overlap at here. Okay. For the first, so between the second and third sub problem, they overlap at here. Okay. So here in dynamic programming, we divide a big problem into overlapping sub problems. Okay, so so the very difference, the difference between dynamic programming and the divide and conquer is very subtle. So the difference is only in whether if the sub problems overlap or not. So if the sub problems overlap, then we need to use dynamic programming. Okay, so so let me say maybe this is very abstract for you, but it will be clear later when I present a very concrete example for you. Okay, so so here the only difference. So here you need to remember that divide and conquer break the big problem into several disjoint subproblems, whereas in dynamic programming we break the big problem into several overlapping subproblems. So that is where we should use dynamic programming rather than divide and conquer. And if you go through the book, you can find that the book spent at least 15 or 20 pages discussing dynamic programming and what are the standard steps to solve a problem by using dynamic programming. And that is too theoretical and very abstract. So I'm just going. So these are the. I'm just summarize the 4 steps over here. But so if you just read these sentences, they don't make any sense for you. So then let's look at a problem. The problem is as this. Okay, suppose that we're giving a rod of length n inches. So it's like we're giving a very long rod of n inches. Okay, so we got a rod of length n inches, and also we give a table of prices. So which is pretty much like this. So this table says, okay, if we have a rod of length 1 inch, so the top row, the top row indicates the length of the rod, whereas the bottom row indicates the price of a rod for a certain length. So here, for example, if we sell a rod of length 1, we can get $1. Whereas if we sell a rod of length 2, we will be able to make $5. If we sell a rod of length 3, we will be able to make $8, etc., etc. So, and then the problem that we want to solve is this. Okay, so suppose that we're giving a rod of, let's say, this length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We were giving a rod of length 7 inches. So basically, we want to find the best way to cut this rod, so that if we sell them if we sell each piece after the cut, and the sum of the price of these different pieces will be the maximum. So for example, if we cut this rod into this, a length 2 inch one, and a length 4 inch long one, and a 1 inch long one. Okay, so if we cut a 7 inch rod into these 3 pieces, how much money can we make? So let's say if we sell the left part, how much money can we make?
$6.
$5.
No, not 6.
$5.
Yes, $5. This is because for a rod of length 2 inches, we will be able to make $5. Okay, so we can get $5 from here. And how much can we make from the middle part?
$9.
Yes, for 4 inch one, we will be able to make $9. And how much can we make over here for the last part?
1.
1. So yes, over here it says that, it indicates that we can make $1. So the total revenue that we can make is just $15, right? So then the problem that we want to solve is basically, okay, we want to giving a rod of a certain length, let's say length n inches. So we want to find the best way to cut the rod, so that after the cut we get a set of some small pieces of different length, and if we sell each of them individually, that we want to maximize the total revenue. So is the problem clear for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, so so this is the given problem, and then some of you may say, okay, this problem is not too difficult, right? So say that if we're giving a rod of say this long, whose length is this long inches, let's try different ways. Let's enumerate all the possible ways to cut it. All possible cuts, and then we calculate, okay, the revenue from each cut, and then we basically find the cut with the highest revenue, and then we solve the problem, right? Correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. So I think this is the solution that comes to most people's mind. Okay, just do it in a brute force way. We enumerate all the possible solutions and find whichever gives us the highest revenue. And let's say, okay, so how much? So if we want to solve the problem in this way, let's call it let's call it a brute force way, a brute force solution, okay? And then let's say how many different ways are there exist, how many different cuts that exist, okay? So let's say first, let's say here, if we have a rod of length 1 inch, when n equal to 1, how many ways do we have to cut this rod?
Just one.
Just one way, okay? Way, number of cuts is also 1. So this when n equals to 1, the number of cuts is basically 1. But when n is 2, how many ways are there for us to cut it?
2.
2. So we can basically either decide to cut it, so to cut it in 2 small pieces of each of an inch, or we can just do not cut it and sew it in a hole. And when n is 3, how many different ways are there for us to cut it?
3.
3? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than that. Let's enumerate. Okay, we can just not cut it and leave it in a hole, and or we can just cut it into 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah, so 4.
So in total, there are 4
4.
ways. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is the next 8 and then 16, is it just 2 to the n?
Sorry.
Is it 2 to the n?
You're pretty sharp. Okay, so we will be there very shortly. Okay, so and then let's say when we have a rod of length 4 inches, how many ways are there for us to cut it?
8.
8. Is that 8? I think you say 8 because you find this relationship. When n is 1, there are 1 cut. 2, they're basically 1 cut. When n is 2, there are 2 cuts. When n is 3, there are 4 cuts. So each time we just multiply the previous number by 2. So here we should get 8, right?
Mhm.
So is this correct?
I think it's 16.
16. And let's say the answer is here, 8. Yes, there are 8 ways to cut it. So this is one way we do not cut it. Here is one way that in which we do not cut it, and then we cut it into 1 and 3, 2 and 2, 3 and 1, 1 1 2, 1 2 1, 2 1 1, and 1 1 1 1. So in total, there are 8 ways to cut a rod of length 4. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So here is in total there 8 ways to cut a rod of length 4. And so can you think about, okay, so if let's just be general, so if we got a rod of length n, how many ways are there exists for us to cut it? It's not let's be general. So here n can be either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or even 100. So how many ways are there for us to cut a rod of length n?
2 to the n.
2 to the n? No. Not exactly, but you're very close to that.
To the nth minus 1.
Yes. Okay, cool. That's brilliant. Okay. So here, 1 equals to 2 to the power of 0, 2 equals to the 2 to the power of 1, 4 equals to 2, 8 equals to the power of 3. So you can say here the exponent that we use over here is basically n minus 1. It's basically n minus 1, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when n is, so when we a rod of length n, there are basically totally 2 to the power of n different ways to cut it. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And to explain why it's 2 to the power of n minus 1, let's think about this. Okay, so suppose that we have a rod of length n. At how many different places can we make a cut? So we can decide to make a cut or not over here, or over here, or over here, or over here, over here, etc., right? So basically between any 2 consecutive ranges, we can decide either to make a cut or not, correct?
Yes.
So how many places are there exist for us to make a cut or not?
N minus 1.
Yes, in total, n minus 1 such places for us to make a cut or not. So let's be simple. Okay, if we got a rod of length 2, this is the only place for us to decide to make a cut or not. If we got a rod of length 3, we got 2 different places to decide to whether make a cut or not, right? So if we're giving a rod of length n minus 1, so we basically got n minus, if we got a rod of length n, then we have in total n minus 1 different positions to decide whether to make a cut or not. And at each of these places, how many choices do we have?
Do you have 2 choices to either cut it or not?
Yes. We at each of them we have 2 choices. So all these choices at different places, whether to make a cut or not, they're just independent. Say if we decide to make a cut over here, does not so if we decide to make a cut over here, doesn't impact our decision to whether to make a cut or at here or not. So basically we have n minus 1 we have different n minus 1 different instances that we need to make a decision, and this so these instances are totally different. So to calculate the number of the combinations, we just need to multiply them. So here we get 2 to the power of n minus 1. So basically we got n minus 1 different positions to decide whether if we're going to make a cut or not. So at each place we have 2 choices to make a cut or not. So in total we got 2 to the power of n minus 1 different ways of cut. That is why we got this number 2 to the. Make sense?
It does for a math major.
Okay. So for the CS or IT major, are you lost?
No, it makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thinking.
Okay, thank you. So so this means this. Okay, this means that if we want to use the brute force way to solve the problem, we need to enumerate all the possible these numbers of cuts, and then basically calculate the revenue for each of them, and then the complexity is at least this 2 to the power of to the power of n minus 1, because we have this number of different choices, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So as we previously talked about, okay, we always want to exclude the constant in the complexity analysis. So then we got 2 to the power of n. So the complexity over here is basically 2 to the power of n. Okay. So so do you have any sense about how complicated if we got a problem whose complexity is 2 to the power of n? Let me just give you an example. Okay, so let me use a different page. So over here, I'm going to use a different page. Okay, so I'm going to add another page right over here. Okay, so so far, what is the highest complexity that we have learned besides 2 to the power of n? Say it.
Quadratic.
Quadratic. Oh, n squared, right?
Yes.
Is the highest complexity that we have learned. So, and let's compare 2 to the power of n with n squared. So when n is 1, what is n squared?
1.
1. What is 2 to the power of n?
2.
2. Okay, if we increase n by 10 times, how large is n squared?
100.
Of
2 to the 10th is 1024. 1020.
1024, yes. Make it around 1K, 1000. Okay. Okay, so then when n is, how large is n squared? 1000, right? What about 100?
A very large number.
A very large number. How large is that? Let's have a sense of that. So 2 to the power of 100, we can rewrite 2 to the power of 100 as this: 2 to the power of 10 to the power of 10, correct?
Mhm.
And so here, we know that 2 to the power of 10 is basically around a little bit larger than 1000. So right?
You're cutting off, and so is the video. Your voice and the video is cutting off.
Can you say it?
See, it's just like every once in a while you'll cut off.
Okay, that's too bad. So maybe next time I'll find a better place to teach the lecture. Okay, so so here say, because the reason is that 2 to the power of 10 is basically a little bit larger than 1000. So that we can replace this with 2 to the power of 10 with 1000, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So then this is going to be 10 to the power of 30. Okay, so let's say 1 billion is, how large is 1 billion?
Like
So nice.
8 digits.
10 to the power of 9, right? So which
Yeah.
means this, okay, it is basically 1000, 1K billions of billions of billions. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
1000 of billions of billions of billions. Okay, so this is really a large number. And so okay, around 10 to the power of 30. Okay, so let's say so this means that if we're giving a problem, a route whose length is 100, so we need around this many of 10 to the power of 30 instructions in order to calculate the solution. Correct? Yes, we need this amount of instructions, okay, to calculate the solution. And how fast is your computer?
Fast like gigahertz?
Yes. So I think normal computers are around 3 gigahertz.
Mm-hmm.
So gigahertz means, so this means that your computer is able to do 3 billions of instructions per second, binary instructions per second. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know how fast is the most efficient computer in this world?
Probably, I don't know.
It's around, it is around 1000 gigahertz. So it is around, it can execute roughly 10 to the power of say 12 instructions per second. So this is the most powerful computer in this world at the current stage. Okay, so which means that if you are given the most powerful computer, we can just do this calculation: 10 to the power of 30, which is the total amount of instructions that we need, divided by the speed of the most powerful computer, 10 to the power of 12. So which we got 10 to the power of 18 seconds. Okay, and so 1 day. So let me say, no, let's do some calculation. Okay, so 1 hour equals to 3600 seconds, and then 1 day is like 24 hours. 24 hours, and around let me say how much. 100,000, less than around 100,000 seconds, okay, or 10 to the power of 5 seconds. And 1 year is like 365 days. So it is around
31 million.
Yes, 36 or 31. Yes, so let's make around 3 times 10 to the power of 7 seconds. Okay, so let's say this is basically equivalent to 3 times power years, or let's basically we can say 30 billion years. Okay, so which means that, okay, if we're giving a rod of length of 100 inches length, and then even if we're giving the most powerful computer in this world, it is going to take around 30 billion years to calculate the optimal solution for that. Okay.
So we have to tell our bosses to be patient.
Sorry?
Never mind, it's just a joke.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't quite get your question. Okay. So here, I just want to use this example to give you a feeling of how bad, how horrible is 2 to the power of n complexity. So this is extremely high. This is extremely high. We give it a name called NP hard. Do you know what does NP hard stand for? NP stands for non-polynomial. Non-polynomial hard. Okay, and so this is extremely hard. So NP hard problem has, so if an NP hard problem has another name, we call it. It has another name. We will call it this: computationally infeasible. So computationally infeasible means that the problem is so complicated that even though you are giving the most powerful computer in this world, it will take trillions of years, billions of years for you to finish the computing. Okay, so NP hard has such name. So this is the highest complexity that we will study in this course, and it's pretty bad. So here you can say that if we follow the enumeration, if we follow the brute force way to enumerate all the possible cuts, and then we will get, basically it's going to be mission impossible. We will get 2 to the power of n complex, and it's going to be mission impossible. So, and this is pretty bad. So then this is where we should use dynamic programming. So if we use the brute force way, the simple brute force way, we got all to the power of n complexity. For the same problem, if we use dynamic programming, we will be able to get n squared complexity. Okay, so now can you feel the power of dynamic programming? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. So then the magic of dynamic programming is here. It can, if for the same problem, for this problem, if we follow the brute force way, it will be mission impossible for us with O to the power of n complexity. And if we use dynamic programming, we will be able to get O n squared complexity, which is a big step. Okay, so and then let me explain a couple of one mathematical equation for you. Okay, so this equation was developed by the mathematical guys, those genius people. So basically, they use this equation to calculate the highest revenue for a rod of length n. So here, Rn stands for the maximum revenue for a rod of length n. Okay, for a rod of length n. And Pi stands for the price for a rod of length n. Of length I. Okay. So Rn is the highest revenue for a rod of length n, whereas the Pi is the price that we can get by selling a rod of length I inches. So what this mathematical equation does is this. Let's just look at this: Pi plus Rn minus I. So here, say if we have a rod of length n, now instead of thinking about all the cuts that we're going to make, let's just think about the leftmost cut. Okay, so suppose that we make the leftmost cut over here at the nth place. It means that, so here in total we got an inch rod. So if we make a cut at the nth place, it means that if we make the leftmost cut at the nth place, it means that, okay, so we are able to get a rod on the left hand side. We are able to get a rod of length I inches, and on the right hand side, what is the length of this rod of the red part?
N minus I.
Yes, n minus I. Cool. N minus I inches. Okay. So because this is the leftmost cut, because this is the last cut, so we're not allowed to further cut the left part anymore. So we have to sell it directly as a whole piece. So how much money can we make from here, from the left?
$1.
Not necessarily. So think about
Or
it. Length
whatever
is
the I. I thought we were still going on that, the one up there that we were
yes,
originally.
it's Pi, right? So this will be directly Pi because we just sell a rod of length I inches directly. So the money that we can make from it is just this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how much money can we make from the right part? So remember that we are allowed to further cut this part. How much money can we make from the right part at most?
Is it P n minus I?
No. So if it's P n minus I, it means that we are not allowed for the cutting. We just felt it directly. But here we are allowed for the cutting. So we can make from a rod length minus I is basically R n minus here. As you can see that on the top, I wrote the maximum revenue for a rod of length n. So here we just need to substitute n with n minus I. Correct? Okay. So then for the left part, we can make PI. For the right part, we can make at most Rn minus I. So in total, if we make the leftmost cut at the ith place, then the total revenue that we can make is just this, the sum of them, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here, the leftmost cut at ith place. So then now instead of enumerating all the possible, we need to worry about the leftmost cut, all the possible places of the leftmost cut. So that's why we have this equation. Okay, we'll try starting from 1 to n. That is and that is all the possible places of the left cut as early as here and as late as here. As late as here. If we make the leftmost cut at here at this place, at the end place, it means we don't whole piece. Okay, so these are the all the possible places. So this is when I equals 1, I equals to 2, 1, I equals to 3, 4, 5. We want to try all the possible places of making the most cut. And from them, we calculate for each of them, which I minus I, then we enumerate all the possibilities of the leftmost cut and find which has the highest total revenue. Okay. Can you hear?
You're cutting out.
And is it better now?
This very moment, yeah.
Okay.
But like the other guys.
Okay, sure. So here, what I want to say is that of the leftmost cut. So from place n, and we calculate the revenue from places of the leftmost cut, highest the revenue.
Hello?
Hi. Wait a second. So let me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So possible places of the first of the left as the highest total revenue. Can you see my writing? For here, and so this mathematical, so it's just one equation, and it seems very simple if we just to calculate the solution from this mathematical method and 2 to the power of n. So the reason is we want to calculate the highest revenue for the rod of length 4 when we let me make according to this formula, we need to calculate from 1 to from 1 to 3 of length 3 of length 2 and of length 1. Can you see my writing? Okay, the highest revenue for a rod of length 3, we need to calculate the solution, the length 2 and 1, and to calculate 2, we need to calculate the highest revenue for a rod of length 1. If you count the total number of function calls, which means that still it is O(n) complexity. And and the many times do we solve do we solve R1? Do we calculate R1?
4 times?
Yes, we calculate R1 4 times. So then how many times did we repeatedly solve the problem R2?
4 times as well.
4 times, yeah.
Two times, right? 2 times, okay? So
Oh,
so
sorry.
yes, 2 times, 1 over here and 1 over here. Okay, so the problem that leads to what leads to the exponential complexity, we call it exponential complexity, is this, okay? Because we repeatedly solve the same problem multiple times. So we keep solving the same problem a lot of times, and that is what leads to such a high complexity. So let me put it in this way, okay? So suppose that I'm a professor who gives an exam after every chapter. So previously we said that in total in our class we got 4 different topics or 4 different chapters. So if I give after chapter 1, if I give an exam on chapter 1, after chapter 2, I give an exam on chapter 1 and chapter 2. After chapter 3, I give an exam on chapter 1, 2, and 3, the first 3 chapters. And after the last chapter, I give an exam on all the 4 chapters. Then how many times do we need to prepare chapter 1?
N.
4 times. And
Yeah.
then we need to prepare chapter 2 3 times, chapter 3 2 times. So this is pretty much like the what this mathematical equation asks us to do. Okay, every time one wants to solve Rn, it needs to get the calculate the solution for all the sub problems, and which triggers the calculation of the further sub problems. So that's why we got the such a high complexity. So instead of having a professor like this, it's better to have a professor, let's say after chapter 1, give an exam on chapter 1. After chapter 2, give an exam on chapter 2. After chapter 3, give an exam on chapter 3. And after chapter 4, give an exam on chapter 4. So that you only need to prepare each chapter once, review each chapter once, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what we want to do. Okay, so and this is what dynamic programming can help us do. So this is pretty much like the brute force solution. On the left hand side, it is pretty much like the brute force solution. On the right hand side, it's pretty much like the dynamic programming solution. So dynamic programming can help us to avoid solving the same problem multiple times. So every time after it solves a problem, it stores the solution of that problem in the memory. So next time when we are asked to solve that problem again, we don't do the calculation. We just retrieve it from the memory.
So this is like the overlapping subproblem you said?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, so the overlapping subproblem comes from here. To calculate the solution of R4, we need to calculate the solution of R3, R2, and R1. Same as what I discussed over here. Okay, to calculate the solution of a rod, to calculate the optimal solution to a rod of length 4, we need to calculate the optimal solution to the rod of length 1, 2, and 3. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, so this is what I want to discuss so far. Okay, this mathematical equation is beautiful, but it still gives us O exponential time complexity 2 to the power of n, and so this is because we repeatedly calculated the same solution multiple times. So so in dynamic programming, the way for us to solve the problem is that the first time when we calculate the solution to a problem, we store it, and next time when we need to calculate the solution of that, we don't actually do the calculation. We just retrieve the solution directly. So this is the beauty of dynamic programming. And so before introducing the solution, I want to give you guys a break, a short break. Let's say 5 minutes, and let's come back at 6:40. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Professor, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, let's say I want to ask you one question. Okay, so if you are giving $20,000 today, how do you want to spend that? How do you want to use that $20,000?
Invest it.
Yeah, invest it in the
How are you
stock
going to
market.
invest it?
I don't know. We put into some index fund.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here, let's say we hear some people saying that they want to invest it. Let's say you invest it in stock. Okay, so do you know how much does stock return you on average a year?
Is it higher than inflation?
Definitely.
Around 7%, you think?
Around what?
7%,
Around
7.5%.
7. Yeah, you're very close.
I think
Okay, if you
7% like
invest
too
on
high.
SP 500, which is a very famous index in the stock index, and then over the past 130 years, it gives you 8% of return on average. Okay, just on average. Sometimes it gives you like 40%. In some years, it gives you negative 20%, but on average, in the long term, it gives you around 8% a year. Okay, so here some people say that they want to invest on stocks. Any other idea on how to use or spend that $20,000?
Spend it,
Save up
save
for
it.
a house. Yeah.
Save for a house. Okay, let's
Yeah,
say you save it in a savings account. So do you know how much does a savings account give you annually?
0.005.
No,
Very bad.
there are some banks that's better job. Let's say, for example, if you deposit your savings in Discover online banking or Capital One, so they usually give you around 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, so then any other idea on how to spend this $20,000 gift?
Like commodities, maybe, like, you know how you could buy like a Rolex watch and then it's like more expensive
Yeah,
Oh.
gold.
if you keep
Invest in gold.
Gold. Okay, invest on gold or some like jewelries, right? So I'm not sure how much do they yield, okay, on average, but over the past 2 years, I did some investment on gold, the stock GLD. So the problem of investing on gold or some precious metals is that, so if you invest on it, it will not produce more gold for you. They can only hold value. Okay, so over at least over the past 2 years, I almost got a zero. So from it, almost zero. Okay, so I think I bought it at $163 per share, and now it's around 161. So okay, so do you know a man called Buffett?
Yeah, Buffett.
like Warren
Yeah.
Buffett.
Warren
Yes,
Buffett,
Warren
yeah,
Buffett.
the investor.
Yes, he never recommends investing on gold. Okay, so any other suggestion? Do you want
Land.
to buy a good car?
I mean, car's gonna depreciate, but
Yeah. I mean, it seems that you guys are so smart, because previously when I asked this question to my previous students, I think the first answer is buy a car. But they let's say some people want to buy a used BMW or a brand new Honda or Toyota. So yes, do you know how much does a car depreciate? How fast does a car depreciate?
It depends
You
on the
lose,
car,
like-
but
yeah.
It depends on what?
on the
Car.
car. Some
On the
car
car.
holds their value a little better, like Hondas.
Like, yes, a little better, but still, you say if today if you got a 10-year-old, let's say Honda Accord, can you sell it for $20,000?
No.
No way, right?
No.
So it will only like decrease in value. How fast does it decrease?
Should be let's go with a safe 5%.
No, You are too conservative, 15% on average a year.
I was thinking
So let's say if you buy a brand new Civic today for $20,000, next year it will be $17,000, and over the next year it will be so 1 year later it will be $17,000 times 1 minus 15%. So I think, let me say that is going to be around 15K. Okay, so every year you lose 15% of the residual value of it. And okay, so these are the different ways of say investment. Let's say so here let's say what can these things, how can these things impact your life in the long run? Okay, let me just present it from my laptop. So let's do some easy things together. Okay, let's do some form part together. So here I'm just going to create another notebook. So let me just draw the plots in this notebook. Okay. So suppose that here we basically want to calculate the value that we are going to have. So $20,000, and the after return is like 8%,
Yes.
right? Wait, okay. So on average, every year you're going to what you hold last year, and then for the 1% return, so it will be 1% more than the previous year, and then for 15%, so what you have
Of its value.
last year, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so then let's term of, let's say for example 20 years, it is 50. Okay, we are going to do this stock values and a list of np.arrange next years, and it will be times so the rate, so the stock rate, so year plus 1. Okay, so then this is what we have for stock values, and then let's do something for the saving values. So it will be the saving rate, and then if we invest on car values, so how much your car is going to be worth. Okay, so and then let's create a data frame. Stock values, saving values, and then we car this data frame. Okay, so this is the what we have. So this is the value that you're going to have after a certain number of years. So and then let me just say append others, which is this arrange. So I think this is what I want to get. So let me put year in the first place. Okay, so this is what the data frame should look like. So we got in year 1, after 1 year, your stock is going to be worth this much, and your car is only going to be worth this much. This is the same as what we calculated.
Yes, somewhat, yeah.
Okay, so then let's do some interesting plots. So let's do some interesting plots.
So over 50 years, if you invest in stocks, it'll be worth almost 50 times as much.
Let's say how much is that? I guess it will be more than that. And okay, so then let's plot more lines. So this will not be stock, it will be saving, color equal to blue, and this will be car, let's say color equal to green. Okay, so the graph and p.show. Okay, so this is how, so the difference of your life if you choose different strategies to handle money. So if you do something if you invest your money in something that generates value by itself, so your $20,000 is going to worth around this value. $930,000 in 50 years. Whereas if you invest in savings, it will only be $30,000, sorry, $12,000 more. But if you invest on cars in 50 years, this is what you have, $6.
And you said that the stock, that's an index fund?
Yes. If you do a better portfolio management, you can. So for me, I manage my portfolio in a very active way. So let's say how much will that be? So it will be around $3.7 million.
And that's what, only 20,000?
Term of 50 years. Okay, so if you invest that in a car, it will be very close to zero. A soda with this $5.9 in 50 years. Capitalism. Okay, so capitalism is that if you hold a good way, in a way that generates value for you, you're not rich. So you'll get a lot of wealth. But if you handle your crap, or say you don't have your retirement fund at all, so I just want to use that exponential complexity. How does the exponential complexity work? So because if you invest on anything, if you invest on the value that you're going to have is going to be exponential based on the investment rate. Say, so let R be the investment rate, like 1%, or let's say 5% or 8%. So your value in the long run will be this 1 plus R over the number of years. Okay, this is capitalism. So if you invest in a good way, so you'll be a lot of wealth there. And if you invest in a poor way, you will lose everything. So the reason why I bring this to your attention is that I think some of you may have already got the stimulus check last week, right?
I haven't got it.
Okay, so I think last Wednesday, some people the first wave of the I mean, some people got the people started to get the stimulus check. Do you know how people use those stimulus check?
I don't know, buy new iPhones or something.
Yes, buy
New
new
what?
iPhones, buy new cars, or say I collaborate with a gaming company based in California. So since last Wednesday, their daily revenue raised 40%. They didn't even do any campaign at all. Just suddenly their revenue increases by 40%. Where does that money come from? The stimulus check. People just invest their money on games. I'm like, this is the money that the government give to you for you to support your life, to have a better life. And now you're doing this, and so maybe later in their life they will just blame capitalism, saying that the richer get richer and the poor gets poor, right? The reason of richers getting richer is not because they're stealing your money. It is stealing the poor's money. It is because the choice that you make in your life. So those rich people choose this way, choose the white line, whereas the poor people, they choose to go for the green line. So that's the difference. So be smart. I'm glad that most of you, so based on the talk with you for the past 10 minutes, I think most of you are pretty smart with money. And in such an early age of your life, I wish that I could be like you when I was at your age. I didn't. So I mean, discipline yourself, and and delay your enjoyment. Say here, if you delay your enjoyment and just invest in your stocks, in 50 years, you will be able to buy any car by using the initial $20,000. So, I mean, it's such a huge increase in your buying power. So when you are young, discipline yourself. So when you only save, let's say you only save $20,000 in your 20s, and then if you just invested in S&P S&P 500, so when you are at 70th, you will get 3.9 or so no. If you manage your portfolio like me, then in your 70th you will be able to have $3.7 million, and that is your retirement fund. So you can easily retire with dignity. And so think about it. And I learned this. I only learned this when I was around 30. So I hope that so I can teach you a little bit about this, so that you are smarter with your money and have a better life when you are older. Okay. So and actually, so you can see over here that the 11% says the return rate, annual return rate is really great, right?
Yeah, I mean, it adds up. And the more you have, the more you're gonna make. You can make more than your salary
But,
after like.
I mean, so the initial fund that you have, say in this example, everybody has the same amount of insurance, right? So if people go for cars, then yes, they can't when they realize that they're poor, they only have $6 in their bank account. So if they find, okay, they got nothing for retirement, they can't complain.
I actually have a question about return on investment.
Sure.
So right now, online programs are becoming really popular, like masters, because of COVID. For like data science programs, like a lot of schools are offering it, including students. Do you think it's worth it going for a master's? Is it like worth the return on investment?
Okay, so here, so you ask a very good question, and I was just about to talk about it. So over stocks, so let's say the average stock give you around 80%, and if you do some very careful management of your portfolio, you can get 11%, but it will take a lot of time from you. You have to go through the financial news and keep up with a lot of things. It definitely takes some efforts and wisdom. So do you know there is a better investment option than this one? Actually, there is one better investment option than this one. So, okay, I forgot to share my screen with you. Sorry. So there is so the 11% seems pretty good, right? But there is one thing that can give you another investment channel that can give you a much higher investment rate. Don't know what is that?
Bitcoin.
Yourself. Investment on yourself or by education. Invest on yourself by education. If you say for every year that you spend at college or for one more year of education, the on average the return is 20%. It is dramatically higher than 11%. So yes, if you remember the previous example that I gave to you about the difference between a PhD and a bachelor degree in salary, 300K versus 140K. Okay.
But you also did say that if you just work hard, after a couple of years, you'll be making the PhD salary in the time it takes to get a PhD.
Yes, but the thing is that if you work that hard, if you go to a company, and make this amount of money, do you have that kind of like energy or motivation to work that hard as you did in PhD? In PhD, you can easily work 80 hours per week. And also the difference between pursuing a PhD in bachelor degree is that, and working in a company is that if you work for a company, mostly likely you're keeping generating, you're basically keeping using you basically use your knowledge to produce value. This knowledge are old, so you acquire this knowledge from your school. But in PhD, the thing is that you keep getting in touch with new knowledge. You keep refreshing yourself. So I mean, in my point of view, okay. So if you still want to stay in school, just go for it. It's totally worthwhile. And and also the other thing is that now when because we are pandemic, the unemployment numbers are pretty high. So during this time, so it's even better to go to college to refresh yourself, because if you go outside and find a job, your salary is only going to be lower than normal. That's my suggestion. And so the 20% so annual return of education has been proved in every country. And and also the economists studied that if a country's government say extend the education for everyone by 1 year, provide one more year of free education, the GDP of that country is also going to increase by 20%. So yes, it's worthwhile. Invest on yourself is the best way of generating value.
Damn, I never thought of that.
Yeah. Yes, I didn't think about it when I was a student, when I was young. I slowly generally learned these things when I became a father, because at that time I really need to worry about money. And so that's why I say my daughter now is around 2.5 years old. I already say have around $20,000 in her 529. So I'll keep maximizing my contribution to her college fund. So I did my math, and so by the time when she needs to college, she should have around $600,000 in her educational fund. So which probably can guarantee that she can always so she can use this money up for her master degree, from undergraduate to master degree.
She's going to MIT.
Sorry?
She's going to MIT?
She's only two
I know.
2 year old. I don't know. So I wish. I definitely wish. Yes. So that's what I do for her, because I realized that education is the best way, especially for me. I grew up from a blue collar family over a third world country, and it's the education that make me in this stage of my life, and I'm very grateful about that. Okay, so do you have any question for me regarding this?
No, it was very insightful. It was a good experience to have. Like, it opened your eyes a bit.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you. And also, if you want to learn more about the finance thing, I'm not a finance guy. So if you want to learn more about it, at your age, I would recommend 2 YouTube channels. The first one is Dave Ramsey. He can help you to avoid a lot of mistakes in your life, financial mistakes in your life. And so just go to YouTube and search this name, Dave Ramsey. And the other one is called Whiteboard Finance. That guy is more scientific than Whiteboard Finance. Whiteboard Finance. Actually, it's called Marcos Whiteboard Finance. I learned this mostly from these two channels, plus a couple of books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and also read something about modern money theory. So yes, so you can. So if you at your age, just start from this, and you'll be more smart about your money. Okay, so then let's come back to the algorithm. Okay, So this is the rod cut problem. This is the pseudocode for the rod cut problem in so by using dynamic programming. We'll give the name called bottom up. So I'm going to explain why it's called bottom up later. So the thing is here, so here we have P as the price array. Price array. P is the price array, which is an array, the input array that I showed you over here. Which is like this, okay? So PI basically tells you the price. If you sell a rod of length I directly, how much money can you make? And then N is the length of your input array. So basically here, the setting is that if you're giving a rod of length N, so then you want to use this algorithm to calculate the best strategy to cut it. So what we do is that first we let R be a new array, so whose index starts from 0 to n. So if you remember, what does Ri stand for? What does Ri stand for? What does that stand for? If you come back to the previous one, so Rn stands for the maximum revenue for a rod of length n inches. So over here, Ri basically stands, so it's going to store, R is basically an array that stores the maximum revenue for a rod of length I. Okay, so this is what we want to get. So basically we want to calculate Rn. And so initially we have R0 equal to 0. Why do we have R0 to equal to 0? Why do we have R0 equal to 0? So if you have a rod of length 0 inch rod, how much money can you make from it?
0.
Yes, $0 from it. So this is what we got from here. If you have a rod of length 0, you can only make $0 from it. And then so next for J starting from 1 to n, so J is so let's slowly let's go over it slowly, okay? For J it's starting from 1 to n. So basically here we want to in each iteration we want to calculate our J. We want to calculate our J. So which is like the maximum revenue for a rod of length J. So we are going to calculate it from R1 to R2 to R3, R4, etc., etc. Okay, so this is the order for us to calculate it. Okay, and then initially we have Q as negative infinity. This is because before calculation we assume that for the maximum revenue for a rod of length J is basically negative infinity, because we don't know how much value can we make from it. Let's just assume that the starting value is negative infinity. And for I starting from 1 to J, we have this Q equal to the max between Q to the max between Q and Pi plus Rj minus I. So here we have Pi plus Rj minus I. Correct? Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So is it very similar to what we have over here or here? So we just replace n with j, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So basically here, what we want to do is that to calculate the maximum revenue for a rod of length j, to calculate our j, we want to try all the possible places of the first cut. So the possible places of the first cut starting from is I, so which starts from 1 until j. So we basically try all the possible places of the first cut, and we take the place that gives us the highest revenue in total. Okay, and then we assign the highest revenue to Rj. So that is after. So basically, Rj is going to store the highest revenue of basically. If we extend it in this way, we're going to have this Rj equal to Q equal to the max between negative infinity and P1 plus Rj minus 1, P2 plus Rj minus 2, and Pj plus R0. So basically, it will try all the possible places. Definitely, so we can ignore this negative infinity because all of these values are going to be larger than negative infinity. Negative infinity is just like an initial value, that we assign. So basically, it will try all the possible places of the first cut from place 1 to place j, and to say at which place do we make the first cut? Are we going to be able to get the highest revenue? And then we are going to assign it to Rj. Okay, so then here, so with this so in each iteration of the for loop, we'll be able to calculate Rj. So then we first calculate R1 and then calculate R2, then R3, etc., until we calculate Rn. And when j reaches n, we just calculate the highest revenue for a route of length n, so we just return Rn. That's the end of the program. Okay, any question for me regarding this pseudocode? Are you lost?
No, I'm following. Yeah.
Any question?
I'm actually a bit lost. What do you do in lines like 4 through 7?
So we basically calculate Rj, the highest revenue for a route of length j, and j starts from 1 to n.
Okay, and so you're calling upon the formula on row 6.
Yes.
Okay. And that's just the formula you were going through with us before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the beauty of this is that, okay, every time when we want to learn the R something, the highest revenue of something, we don't calculate. We just retrieve it from the array. So we avoid repeated calculation. So we always store, after we calculate R1, we store it in the array. After we calculate R2, we store it in the array. So that in the future, when we need them, we just retrieve the solutions from the memory. Make sense?
Yeah, it does, to reduce the time it takes to run.
Yes. So you can take it in this way, okay? So if you have a professor who repeatedly asks the same question in your assignments. So the first time when you work out a question, you just store it in your hard drive. So next time when you receive a homework with repeated questions, you just retrieve that solution from the hard drive and submit the homework immediately. So this is what we do with dynamic programming. Okay, so if no question regarding the pseudocode, and I'm going to briefly introduce the time complexity. So here, previously, I said that if we worry about the time complexity of an algorithm, so we only need to pay attention to two parts. What are the two parts that we need to pay attention to? Loops and function call, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in this pseudocode, we only have loops, but no function
Yeah,
call.
nested loop.
Yes, it's a nested loop. Good point. So here, let's say, how many iterations are there in this, in the outer loop?
N.
N, yes, because we iterate j from 1 to n, so n iterations. How many iterations are there in the inner for loop?
J.
J, and j can be as large as what? What is the maximum value of j? Because j is a variable, so how large can j be?
Was that the length of the
Yes,
rod?
j can be as large as n, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, j can be as large as n because these two loops are nested, so we need to multiply them to calculate the total amount of iterations, total number of iterations. So in total, we got n times j less than or equal to n times n. So that's how we got the n squared time complexity. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so then for the first time, we learned something called space complexity. So previously, we never talked about space complexity because when we're sorting an array, we mostly sort the array A, we do the value arrangements, do some value switches in this array. So we don't need to create a new array except for the counting sort algorithm. But here, the problem is that, so we got some space complexity because we need to store the solutions for sub problems, right? So we need to create a new array over here. So we need to, so your program, when you execute your program is going to ask for some space in your memory. Correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and so to store the solutions, this is like when you do your homework, you store your homework solutions in your computer, then you are going to ask for some hard drive space. Okay, so the space complexity basically measures so the memory, how much memory space is your program going to ask for? We call it the memory overhead. So how much memory overhead does this program is this pseudocode going to ask for? And so here we got ON space complexity because we're going to ask for create a new array of size n+1. So that's how we got the ON space complexity for this algorithm. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah, now I understand space complexity.
Oh, cool.
I thought like space complexity was like hard disk, but it's all
Sorry?
memory. So I thought space complexity was the meaning of like the file size.
Yeah.
But
it's not like, yes, you can take it as file size because for now you haven't taken the operating system class. After you take the operating system class, you probably will know that the difference between the file size and the memory size. But for now, you can just take them interchangeably.
Okay.
Okay, so here we just say this solution basically solves this problem in a bottom-up solution. So because firstly, it calculates the
Wait, is space more like RAM than it is hard drive?
RAM.
It's RAM?
Yes, it's RAM.
Oh, okay, I see.
That's why I say it's memory, not disk overhead.
Oh, is RAM referred to memory in general?
Yes.
Okay, I see.
RAM is in short for random access memory.
And so
Okay.
what's like the term for an SSD or a hard drive?
For what?
For a hard drive, just
For hard drive, HD
okay.
hard drive. Okay, so okay, so now we just see that we with this pseudocode, we basically solve the problem in a bottom-up fashion, where so in which we first solve the calculate R1, then R2, R3, R4, and Rn. It's like we go from the bottom to the top. So that's why we give the name called bottom up. Okay, and then people design another solution that is called top down. This is bottom up. Called top down. So which solves the problem in this way. Okay, so and here is the pseudocode for the top-down solution. Okay, so so this is the main entrance of the top-down solution. Again, we take two input values, P and N. P is the price array, and N is the length of the route that you have in your hand. So first we create an array of R of be a new array. So the R. So I think everybody is familiar with R. Basically, Ri stands for the maximum revenue for route of length I, and initially it assigns negative infinity to all R, to every space of R. So initially we have R as all negative infinities. Okay, this is 0, 1, 2, and N. So then it calls an auxiliary function named memoized cut route aux PNR. Again, P is the price array, and N is the length of the route that you have, and R is this auxiliary array that we created. So within this function, what we do is that first we check if Rn is larger than 0 or larger than or equal to 0 or not. Basically, if it checks if Rn is not a negative value, it will just return it. Okay, so let's just leave it for now, because initially we got all negative infinities. If N is 0, it means that we are asking for the highest revenue of a route of length N, then we have Q as 0. And so Q is, so that's pretty, so this is pretty easy for us to understand, right? We have Q, if we got a route of length N, basically we can make $0 from it. And next we have Q as negative infinity. And for I starting from 1 to N, we're going to do this. Okay, so this is exactly the same as what we do over here. For I starting from 1 to J, it is going to basically it enumerates all the possible places of the first cut and calculate Rn. It calculates Rn over here, and then finally, so and assign Q as Rn. So we have Q as Rn. So then we assign Q to Rn. So the thing is that, so every time when we calculate the highest revenue to a route of certain length, let's say no matter it is 2 or 1 or whatever, we store the solution in the array. Let's say now we calculate the solution. So now it's no more negative. It becomes positive 5, and this becomes 1, and this becomes 0. So the next time, so that is teaching, okay? Go play with mommy, okay? Okay, sorry, my daughter just came, and so here after we firstly calculate the highest revenue for a route of certain length, we store it in the array. So next time, if you want to retrieve if you want to calculate R2, we are going to start. We are going to stop over here, because next time it's like we have already. If Rn is so after we calculate the solution for Rn, then so it's going to have a non-negative value, and then we just return it. So this basically checks if we have solution calculated before, we just return it, calculated before. If we have the solution calculated before, we just return it. So this is how we avoid calculating the solution to the same problem multiple times. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So then we call it memories cutout solution, or we can give it a name called top down. Okay. So yes, then this is the so it has the same time complexity and space complexity as the bottom up one, but they just follow different conventions of solving problems. So okay, so then this is the pseudocode that can help, which can help us calculate where do you need to make the cut in order to get the best, in order to get the highest revenue. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about this because I think for now your mind, your brain may be burning, so it's going to be too much for me to talk about it, and it's not mandatory to implement these two functions in your homework. So, but if you want to earn some extra credit, you can just implement them. I guarantee you that it's just a 30 minutes of work. It's just a 30 minutes of work. So if you want to earn some 20% more extra credit, so just spend 30 minutes more in your homework 7. Homework 7 or 6, I don't remember. Yeah, homework 6. Okay, so this is so then this is pretty much what I want to discuss today. And after this class, I ask everyone to read this subchapter 15.1. It will take you around 1.5 hours to do that. And this is the first time that I require everybody to read a subchapter. So it means that it's really important. So I want everybody to read it. Okay, so any question for me?
Yeah, I got one question. So
Sure.
you either use bottom up or top down, but not both, right? Just either implementation.
Oh, sorry, could you please repeat your question?
So you either like implement bottom up or top down, but not both at the same time, right?
Right. You either choose bottom up or top down. So either of them can help.
So is there like a situation where bottom up or top down is like the better implementation?
Actually, bottom up is a better implementation because if you look at top down, so this function, the auxiliary function keeps calling itself. So this is a recursive function.
I see.
So we want to avoid recursion, but for us to understand it, so conceptually, theoretically, top down makes more sense. It's easier for us to understand, but it's more difficult for us to debug. So but in the engineering world, we always choose this bottom up because it is iterative. Okay, so is there any other question for me?
For bottom up and top down, their time complexity is different, right?
The same.
The same?
Yes, they're
Okay.
exactly the same. They have the same complexity. I don't show the complexity analysis of top down because it's recursive. It's hard to explain the time complexity, but they're just the same.
The same. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Any other question for me?
What do you think about Bitcoin as an investment, Professor?
Oh, so that's a hot topic. Okay, so I mean,
I know it's like volatile, some people say.
yes, it's volatile, and so the thing the problem of Bitcoin is that does cash have any value?
No, currently no.
No, currency does not have any value because if the U.S. government to say today we're going to abandon the U.S. dollars, then all the cash bills that we currently have are going to be like trash, right? They don't have any value.
Yeah.
The currencies are not like computers, are not like say for example your cell phone or a bottle of water which carries value by itself. So Bitcoin is the same thing. It's just a different currency, and this currency is the biggest difference between this currency versus the cash, the bills, is that the traditional currency is that so a Bitcoins has there are a limited number of Bitcoins, a limited amount of Bitcoins. So like currently, let's say we already say our government is printing money like printing trash, like generating trash or printing the toilet papers at that speed. And this gives a lot of panic to the society because I'm going to talk about why there is a panic maybe next time in our next class. So currently Bitcoin has such high price because we are saying all the governments are printing traditional money like generating like printing the toilet papers. So which means people just panic and go to invest on hold Bitcoins because they think that it holds value. So, but the thing is that if suddenly say people say, okay, we're going to abandon, we design something which is better, another digital currency which is better than Bitcoin, then all the Bitcoins are going to lose its value. It's just $0. So if you ask me if it's a good option, I mean, I would say in summary, I would say it is high return, high risk. So depending on your risk, so depending on your finance situation and how tolerant, how is your, so to what degree can you be tolerant with the risks, you can decide that. But I personally don't touch that thing.
When it first became very popular, it went up to like 20,000 and then dropped to like 15, and now it's more than tripled in price.
Mm-hmm.
That's in hindsight.
Yes. So, I mean, this is just too risky for me. So I'm not a person which wants to take such a big risk. If I just keep up my 11% portfolio, then yes, I'm pretty satisfied with that. I don't need something like 200% annual return rate. No, that's so if it gives you 200% this year, probably it's going to be negative 115% next year. So yes. What about okay?
Do you
So
think
I got
studying? Sorry.
Say it.
Do you think like studying economics or finance like at school makes you a better investor?
I'm not sure because I don't have that experience, but I do have a couple of friends who graduated from business school. They're definitely better than me on investment. Yes.
By business school, do you mean like business administration or just like finance, economics, stuff like that, accounting?
I think their major is like finance. Yes, but I mean, in general, I think computer science is a better major than finance. Say it.
What do you think about blockchain? I mean, Bitcoin runs on blockchain. What do you think about blockchain? I think it's kind of cool. What do you think?
So the beauty of blockchain is that once you store the data, so once you store the data, it's very difficult for someone to modify the data. So that is the beauty of it. But there is one weakness of blockchain. That is that if the adversary occupies at least 50% of the total computational resource, then that guy is going to be the dictator. That guy can erase all the existing content stored in the blockchain and write whatever he wants to write in the new blockchain, and everyone else is going to accept it. That is by the design, because the one. So remember last time I told you that. So the proof of work thing in blockchain or Bitcoin. That is the guy whoever first finds X such that X plus a nonce equal to C. So the guy who first find such X is going to be able to append a new block into the total blockchain. And a blockchain is basically a linked list of transactions, right? So if the adversary occupies more than 50% of the computational power, it's guaranteed that the adversary is always going to be the guy who calculates the X. So that guy is able to write anything into the existing blockchains, and which totally destroys the whole blockchain system. So if you ask me what do I think about it, it's a little bit risky because if you have a big government and this government is very wealthy, who holds more than half of the value that the society of the wealth of the society, then that government is basically going to be able to manage everything. Or so it does not have to be a government; it could be an organization or something. Even though for organizations or companies, it's less likely for them to hold more than 50% of the total computational resource. But if we have a very bad government, then yes, it's going to be very dangerous. So basically, that government can say, okay, Karen, you just told me, you just borrowed me $500,000 from me yesterday. Pay it back to me now. So yes, that's what.
But
Say it.
wait, so blockchains, but can blockchain be implemented anywhere else? I mean, in terms of somewhere
Yes.
else, like
Yes. So before blockchain, there are some existing technologies. If you can Google it, that's easier for understand, like a Merkle tree. I use it for my research purpose, and which is also used to store data and validate the data integrity. This blockchain basically is just one more step than hash table, than the hash function. So you can take it as the combination of hash function and the linked list. That's it.
oh, okay.
Because each block is basically a list node, and the total blockchain is just a linked list.
Yeah, it keeps on adds up. I get it now.
Any other question for me? Okay.
So wait, actually, the last time we met, you said that like if you do go for a PhD, it's generally because you want to teach. Is there like a financial reason to go for a PhD, or would you recommend students to just get their master's and
Okay,
work?
so different people have different situations. Like for me, because I grew up from third world country, and my parents, they so the in the Asian culture, the thing is that as long as you're a student, your parents are always responsible for everything for you. So no matter how old are you, so for example, I have a friend who is 34 years old, and he's still doing his PhD. So he comes from a relatively rich family in China. So his parents give him $1 million in cash, $1 million in cash for him to buy a house in a very good town in New Jersey. And at the time when her daughter was born. So basically his parents is going to take care of everything for him. Similarly, if I go for a master degree, my parents has to pay my tuition. And but their combined income is less than $10,000 a year. So how could they pay that tuition for me? So then for me, yes, if my parents can afford my tuition, I will go for a master. The biggest reason for me to go for a PhD rather than master is finance. Because if I go for a PhD, I can get a scholarship to cover my tuition and living cost. But I mean, fortunately, I after I earn it, I feel that the 3 additional years I paid in my PhD is pretty worthwhile, which makes me have a much better understanding of the computer science field.
Something that I found really interesting was that I was talking to one of my economics professor, and he says, and he's retiring after this year, and he says that he does research in other areas that's not economics. So even if you're just a PhD and you want to do research outside of computer science, you're free to do so, which I thought that was really interesting. That
Yes.
was like a really cool perk of being a professor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's possible. After you got basically PhD is just a certificate saying that you just entered the door of research. It's basically like you got a certificate of kindergarten in research, saying that yes, you are educated, now you can do more research. So
that's one hell of an analogy, comparing a PhD to kindergarten.
Yeah, you're just like a kindergarten guy. Just finish. It's like you just finish your kindergarten in the research world. People just did like some potty training for you.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there's a long way after PhD. So keep researching.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Any other question for me?
A kindergartner. So you're still in elementary school.
Yeah, pretty much like that. Yeah, I definitely agree that I'm kind of like in the elementary school of research world. I'm pretty young in the research world. Yeah, if you look at those senior guys, when they're in their 70th or 80th, they're still reading papers and doing research. So
compared to you, we're like newborns. We're like your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, somehow like that. Yeah. Any other question for me? Okay, so if no more questions, then I'm going to see you next Friday.
Thank you,
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Have a good evening, everyone.